of them. That leaves me with 7 left. So that's pretty hype. Put it out of the way so I can see chat. What's up, Corey? Alright, so let's see if we can't beat good old Skeletor now. Damn it! Was not anticipating that just yet. Booyah! Do 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 do. Take that, stompy skeleton dude. There's a trick to this somewhere. I know there has to be. I don't trust that thing. Okay, let's see if we can beat the Yeti now. Six left. Gonna be 5 after I beat up this Yeti. Oh, I can't just roll off? Okay, see if I can remember where the Yeti is. That Yeti squished me a few times. He was a big mean Yeti. Okay, so he wasn't that one up there, he was this one over here. Okay, Mr. Yeti. Damn it. I didn't deserve it. See? You just squished me for no reason. Damn it. So I figured out the trick, I just need to get a little bit better at dodging. Damn it! I missed. I would have had dumb if I didn't miss. Damn it. I keep missing. I can guarantee you. This strategy will work. I just need to not miss. Damn it! Stupid icicle fell on me. Yeah, the hard part is not missing. Especially given that my accuracy is not the best. Damn it! I rolled the wrong way. Yes, it is in fact, as you say, terrible. Like my French accent. Quick poll for chat, which is worse? My French accent or my aim? It is a tough call. Damn it. They are both extremely awful. You are absolutely right. It's funny, I actually have a really good French accent when I'm trying. But when I really don't want to try, it can be actively horrible. And there's a reason for that. The reason is I spent a lot of time working on my Quebecois accent as well as my regular French accent. So, because of that, I'm able to mingle the two together and create a horrible amalgam of Quebecois and French. So that's another thing you can all hate Quebec for. Damn it. Turned around too quickly. No, I'm just giving you another reason to hate Quebec. Damn it. I didn't roll fast enough. You don't? Why not? What's to not hate about Quebec? Damn it. In fact, I can think of only two reasons why why we shouldn't hate Quebec. There are only two reasons to not hate the Quebecois. Those two reasons are Poutine, and they're pretty much the only reason why French is one of Canada's national languages. But, I mean, they've also done so much bad. The immediate thing I can think of is Pierre Trudeau. Ooh, that was a big mistake. I don't think we can ever forgive Quebec for that mistake. Ah, damn it, I got squished. I've seen a lot of the policies that Pierre Trudeau had enacted back when he was Prime Minister. They were bad. Like, not Trump or Reagan bad, but they were pretty close to, like, Nixon bad. Like, I'm not gonna say he was worse than Harper. Yeah, they are. Wasn't Pierre a PC? Pierre Trudeau was PC, wasn't he? Oh, he was a liberal? That doesn't sound right. His policies do not match that at all. But also, I remember when I used to write for a satirical newspaper, we did make fun of him a bit while we were doing the political campaign, and somebody wrote for the Liberal Party. This was back when it was Harper, Mulcair, and Trudeau running, and for Trudeau, somebody wrote, "If you hate my father's policies, don't worry, I did too." Damn it, I had him. I mean, I'm not going to say Pierre Trudeau was the worst of the worst, but he was definitely one of the worst that Canada's ever had. Damn it, I had him. Sure, he did do some good things, but the same thing could be said about Nixon. Nixon's why the wall went down. He was the one who put in the charter, right? I thought that was around way before he was. Oh, okay. Damn it. Stupid Yeti, you need to show me that booty more. But I will say this, before Trudeau, I also really don't like a lot of the Canadian politicians, because, I don't like a lot of the Canadian politicians just because, like, before Trudeau, they were kind of really... What? Oh. Yo, that Yeti needs to show me his booty! I was like, what sentence did I say? What, did I say something politically incorrect? Then I realized you meant the Yeti. Before Justin Trudeau. Because they were all actively bad for the First Rights people. For First Nations people. Okay, not all of them. That's a bit of hyperbolic. And I'm being a bit disingenuous there. But for the most part, they were really bad for the First Nations people. Like, people always talk about how America was bad for the Native Americans. But, like, we had the Trail of Broken Promises as well. We had our own disaster. Justin isn't great with them, but he's the best we've had in a ever. He's the best we've had. He's actively trying, at least. And, like, I won't fault him for being bad, because it's a parliamentary system, and he's just another minister. He's basically the tiebreaker, but at the end of the day, he's just a minister and the face of the party. But he doesn't have more say than a regular minister in Parliament. And I think that's something that a lot of Canadians don't understand. That Parliament is difficult. Like, I get that it's frustrating, but the biggest difference between Parliament, a parliamentary system, and a presidential system, for people who may be watching this on YouTube or listening in and don't really understand, is both of them have two parties. Have two houses, rather. So in America, you have the House of Representatives and the Senate. In the UK, you have the... oh gosh, what is that one called? I think it's the House of Representatives again. And then you have the House of Lords. Let me just pull out one of my law books to double check that one. Yeah, that doesn't sound right. Where's my public law book? There it is. House of Commons. That's what it's called. Yeah, I'm a total nerd. I'm actually so into this stuff. So you have the House of Commons and then the House of Lords. And I'm not too familiar with Canada's own. I think it's something similar, but they don't call it the House of Lords because that is an exclusively UK thing. But in America, for instance, if the House of Representatives passes a bill, okay, the House of Commons and the Senate, thank you. So in America, when the House of Representatives passes a bill, which, mind you, can still take a long time, but typically, because of how America's government is set up, you'll have a majority party in an area. Well, the House of Lords is a hotly debated topic, and there have been a lot of efforts made by the UK system to try to bypass the House of Lords and just keep it as a matter of convention, kind of like how they just keep the Queen as a matter of convention. British people really like their lords and their queens, but there have been efforts made to bypass them. The Act of Parliament 1945 was the most recent one, which allowed the House of Commons, if they pass a bill 3 times and the House of Lords shoots it down each time, they are allowed to just bypass the House of Lords and take the bill straight to the Prime Minister, who will then pass the law if they find it acceptable. But trying to take convention away from the English is not a good idea. What I was saying, though, was in the House of Representatives, when they pass a bill, it goes straight to Senate. Senate can either approve or reject the bill. If they reject the bill, it gets thrown out. That's the end of that bill. They decide this bill isn't worth it. Of course, throwing the bill out isn't going to be an easy topic either. That one does take a while because it means that they don't want it. So you'll end up with a lot of bills being thrown out by the Senate before they even get to the president. But it's worth noting that the president can then veto the Senate and say, no, never mind, I want this one. So because of that veto power that the president has, things get done a lot faster in the US. Executive orders, veto power, all this stuff that Trump loves to do are things that are pretty much exclusive to the presidential system. It's something only the president can do. In a parliamentary system, however, when the House of Representatives passes a bill, when the House of Commons passes a bill, and it goes to the Senate or the House of Lords, the House of Lords can look at it, review it, send it back to the House of Commons. When it gets sent back to the House of Commons, they look at the reviews, make their own reviews and adjustments, and then send it back up to the House of Lords or the Senate. And this will keep going until they reach a compromise. Ah, damn it. So, because there's going to be this constant back and forth, there's no point at which the Prime Minister can then step in and say, okay, hold on guys, we really need to get this thing passed. I'm going to just bypass all of you, send an executive order and sign it off. He has to wait for everybody to agree on it before he can even talk about it publicly. So, if you look at something like the Trans Railway, to give an example. Stuff God in committee held from before. Exactly, there's still stuff God in committee held from ages ago. And the thing is too, if you look at like the American system, when the Republicans get put into power, the Democrats get put into power, they can take the stuff that was still in Congress at the time and throw it out. They can hastily just reject bill after bill after bill. There's no need for the rigid structure that Parliament has. When the Liberals come into power, they still have to review everything that the Conservatives had. If the NDP ever gets put into power, they'll have to review everything the Liberals had. So because of that, there's a huge line of stuff before it even gets to the stuff Trudeau wants to do. And there's going to be a huge line of stuff even after Trudeau leaves before they get to the stuff Trudeau wants to do. And, you see a bit of it in the American system when Trump talks about how many jobs he's created in America, and you go, no, Trump, you didn't create any jobs, that was all Obama. And we know it, regardless of what Fox News wants us to think. But, you'll get... It's easier to tell stuff like that in the U.S. because it's a cause and effect situation. Obama passes a law that has an effect 10 years down the road that causes unemployment rates to go down. In Canada, it's a lot more tricky because unless you're actively reading the laws to say, okay, so who proposed this one, when was it proposed, how long has it been in conservative hell, how long has it been in committee hell, you won't know who passed the law. So there's a lot of laws that passed in Harper's time that I can guarantee were before Harper's day and age, just because of the nature of how they were passed. There was a lot of stuff that was rejected by Harper's team because it was around before them. These stuff, parliamentary system is a bureaucratic nightmare. Damn it! I was right under him. So yeah, when I say something like Trudeau hasn't been great for the First Nations, or Trudeau has done an amazing job for First Nations people, what I'm saying in a bit... Oh, I can just walk in and out? Cool. What I'm more saying is the Trudeau administration. And I will say this, the Trudeau administration is very representative. When you look at Trump's administration, for instance, you have Scott Pruitt in charge of the EPA, which is so stupid. I don't know what he was thinking when he put Scott Pruitt... Oh, you know what? He's probably thinking Scott Pruitt would give him exactly what he wanted when he was in charge of the EPA. You have, freaking... What's her name? Betsy DeVoe in charge of education. The girl can't read or write, but somehow she can be put in charge of the education system. But then you look at Trudeau's administration, and you have... Ah, frick, I had him. Exactly. You have people who don't understand the system being put in charge of the system. Or you have people who understand the system in a bad way being put in charge of the system. But then you look at Trudeau's cabinet, and he put a First Nations person in charge of First Nations rights. He put an Indian parliament, an Indian, what are they called again? Politician. I can't remember the actual title. He put an Indian politician in charge of immigration rights. He put a woman in charge of women's rights. He put a former space engineer in charge of travel. Like, he actively made efforts to have his administration as close to what people need as possible. Yeah, exactly. So people can say what they want about Trudeau. At the end of the day, he's actually making efforts to... What is that? Doing such... Yeah, exactly. It's sad that doing such a simple, commonsensical thing is a great step. But the fact of the matter is that it is a great step. And it's something that most politicians don't do. Donald Trump actively put the worst people for the job in charge of the job. There we go. Got him right between the butt cheeks. Look at it. Goodness butthole. Ha ha ha. So yeah, when you look at these two parties and how much they've actively done to harm the community and whatnot, how much they've actively done to harm the community that they've been put in charge of, at that, Trudeau is doing an amazing job. And it's worth noting, by the way, that excuse me. I tend to throw the words "amazing job" around very liberally. I do throw it around very liberally. When I say somebody's done an amazing job, I do mean it. I'm not going to say I don't mean it, but it doesn't mean there isn't room for improvement. Like, Wizards of the Coast is doing an amazing job for representation. But, if you look at Chult is very bad representation. Chult has a very Heart of Darkness mood to it. If you look at exactly. So yeah, I'm gonna say Wizards of the Coast is doing an amazing job because they are doing an amazing job. It would be a lie to say they're not doing an amazing job, but they could do more. I think in all of their books, there's one gay couple. It's a male gay couple, and it's in Ravenloft. And I'm talking specifically canonical gay couples. I'm not talking like in story you have a female character who is in love with a female NPC or in love with another female character. I'm talking NPC relationships in D&D published books. Is Strahd bi in the book? Like, have they explicitly said he's bi? Or is that something that fans have interpreted? Because, again, I'm talking explicitly said in the books. But one of his wives is male? Okay, so that's great. That's actually really cool. But I know when exactly, or is it a Dumbledore situation where it said outside of the material? But for instance, to give an example, just to go back to what the point I was making was, the couple in Curse of Strahd, who I'm referring to, at least I think it's Curse of Strahd. It may have been the Giants one. I can't remember what the name of that one is right now. But there's one book with a gay relationship, and I believe it was based off of Jeremy Crawford and his husband, and he had to fight for it. So, it's in Storm King's Thunder. Thank you. I knew just one of the two. But he had to fight for it. Jeremy Crawford, a gay man, had to fight for representation. Damn it. So, again, like, Wizards of the Coast did an amazing job having Chult be improved on from their first iteration. And they did an amazing job. Exactly. So, I'm not going to blame the writers. I'm going to blame the executives who will say who will put limits on it, and then they'll say stuff like, "Oh well, do we need this? How essential is this? Can we get rid of this?" Which is bad. Damn it. That's cool. Like, I have the utmost respect for Chris Perkins. I have the utmost respect for Chris Perkins, Mike Marles, and Jeremy Crawford. I think they're all amazing people who've done amazing steps for every community. So I'm not going to blame them. I think the problems with Chult were as a result of there not being any black people on the staff who wrote the book. Because I'm guilty of it. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, it's because they don't understand the struggles that black people are in through. No, I have people who I will message and be like, hey, listen, I want to do this. Is this a trope that I should avoid? Am I avoiding the trope when I write? Can you look this over for me and tell me if I've done something problematic? And how can I fix it if I have? And I think not having a black person on the team, not having a black person on the team made it so they didn't see the problems that people saw. And it's not just Wizards of the Coast who has that problem. Look at the, oh gosh, I believe it was Olay who did it. Or Pantene. No, I messaged Victoria to ask her thoughts. Because as somebody who isn't Jewish, I don't consider myself an expert on it. Exactly. I asked her to say, hey, I noticed these things about dwarves. Would you say that is a Jewish stereotype? Would you say that dwarves are Jewish coded? I think were my exact words. And she said she never saw it. But if it were true, then it was fine because it was done in such a way that damn it. It was done in such a way that it was considered non-problematic. Which I understand, Amadeus Cho, for instance, suffers through a lot of the Chinese stereotypes. He's Korean. I understand he's Korean, but I'm going to say Chinese stereotypes because that's typically what people think of when they see someone like Amadeus Cho. Which, mind you, in itself is a big problem. People look at Amadeus Cho and will call him Chinese even though he's Korean. So yeah, let me not say that. He's problematic for the East Asian community. Because his superpower is that he's a genius. His superpower is that he's really good with numbers. And he understands things that other people don't understand. But while you have people like there we go. So while you have people like Reed Richards, who are smart and cold and an asshole overall, if Reed Richards were written to be Chinese or East Asian in general, it would be a problem. Amadeus Cho, even though he falls under certain stereotypes, it's less problematic because of the fact that he does it in a positive light. And that's kind of what Victoria told me too when I asked about the dwarves. She said, yeah, it was a problem, but it was, sorry, so yeah, it had certain things that were Jewish coded about it. But they weren't done in a negative light, so it wasn't bad. But I make sure to do these things. I'm very careful about not having my orcs be black, because and even then I still fell into a big trap that I didn't even realize until recently, where there has to be a trick to this room. And it's that the communities that orcs live in, this tribal community, is still a very black-coded thing. It's a very black-coded thing, it's a very Native American-coded thing, it's a very First Nations-coded thing, and you don't want things like that when you're trying to have representation. So even though I made an effort to not have my orcs be black, I still fell for that trap. I'm not going to claim that I'm almighty and innocent in all these things, because I'm not. I'm guilty of it too. I didn't realize it until somebody pointed it out, until somebody made a post about it, and I was like, oh crap. You're absolutely right. Tribal communities are coded to be for specific cultures. And I did them dirty by doing this. At this point, there's nothing I can really do about it. I can make efforts to change it in Campaign 2, but at this stage in the game, in Campaign 1, it's kind of embedded itself in the game to the point where I can't do anything about it. I wish I could. I would love to be able to go back and change things, but I think if I did, it would create a lot of continuity errors and all that stuff. And yes, the orcs. Because even though I tried my best to not code them a specific way, I did kind of make them coded by making them a tribal community. And where the hell is this boss? And you know, I try to do my best to subvert tropes as well. So to go back to my point, exactly, this could be just one community of orcs. That's how I would correct it going forward. And that's pretty much how you're supposed to correct things like this, from my understanding. If you have... Exactly. There's nothing that says they can't have a city somewhere else, too. If you're going to do something like that, if you're going to have a black protagonist, or a disabled protagonist, or a protagonist who's gay, you want to make it a normal thing in the community. You want to point out, yeah, sure, the antagonist is gay, but so is the protagonist. So really it's just this gay person fighting this gay person, and it's fine now. Damn it, where the hell is this place? I'm trying to find. If you have a, sorry, there's one Titan I'm still missing, but I can't figure out where he is. Oh, maybe it's up here. What was I saying? Damn it, I lost the plot. Yeah, so as long as you have made an attempt to normalize it for the group as a whole. It's fine. So if you look at what's his name? Oh gosh, I love him too, but I can't remember his name. Shang-Chi. If you look at Shang-Chi, for instance, Shang-Chi is very problematic for the community in that he doesn't subvert tropes. He's a master of kung fu. He's straight out of mainland China and all this stuff, written by white people at that. There's a lot of things that Shang-Chi is bad for. Oh my goodness, I'm missing literally one Titan. Where is it? So there's a lot of things that are problematic about Shang-Chi that I think if Marvel were wise and had the chance, they would go back and change. And by that I mean don't make Shang-Chi white. I mean things like don't name his father Fu Manchu. Have actual Asian people write Shang-Chi to get around the problematic stuff that he does. I will say that they've gotten better in the recent years, and I say this a bit tongue-in-cheek given that Marvel doesn't have the best history right now. They've done a lot of really bad things that I don't think they have any plans on making corrections for. But Marvel is also doing a pretty good job in terms of representation. You have Kamala Khan, you have the Champions, who, if I recall correctly, only have one white guy on their team, and it's Scott Summers, and nobody takes him seriously anyway. Right, exactly. And if you're a white person, that's how you get around these things. If you're working for a company like Marvel and they put you in charge of writing a comic book about somebody, because I'm not going to put all the blame on the writers. I will say that the writers are guilty of a lot of things, but I'm not going to put all of the blame on them because that's equally unfair in my opinion. Oh, these were the bosses from that area. Okay, I thought this was the trick to understanding something around here. Like, I'm not going to say that the writers are all innocent, but I don't think the writers are completely culpable too. Because, like you said, a white guy was put in charge of writing an Inuit character. So what he did was he went to Inuit consultants while designing her to figure out how he was going to do it. What Wizard of the Coast should have done was when they were making Jolt, talk to black people. It's not hard to do. I'm not. They didn't even have to hire the black people to be on their creative team, though that would be a great start. They just have to talk to them. Give it to black people to play test. And, they would have realized, oh, this stuff is problematic. Okay. I'm not going to blame them for not understanding it because they're a bunch of white guys. I'm going to blame them for not making efforts to understand it. Whereas, you have Marvel on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where it's just run by a bunch of white guys who don't care. I think that's Marvel's biggest problem. They don't care. Wizards of the Coast cares. You can see it in how they do things. Wizards of the Coast makes attempts to show that they care. Oh my goodness, I swear I've been walking around for a while. I has to be right. Exactly. Their writers care. I think Wizards of the Coast, on the other hand, suffers from the problem of, because they all care, they don't realize that there are certain issues with how they do things. Okay, it's great. I'm just going to look it up. Because I cannot, for the life of me, figure out where this thing is supposed to be. Exactly, the higher-ups at Marvel don't care. Oh, okay, there's a switch behind the coins. There it is. Figured it out. Thank you, Internet. So, while Marvel has the problem of the writers care and the higher-ups don't, you have Wizards of the Coast, on the other hand, who will say, because we care, I don't think I'm capable of doing this as problematically as you claim I am. So because Wizards of the Coast has that problem where they all care, they don't realize things like, okay, maybe we should have a black person on the writing team, just to double check that we're doing this correctly. Maybe we should have an Asian person on the team to ensure we're doing this correctly. Damn it. Because if you look at Eberron, I can guarantee you there's going to be at least one area where I'm going to look at it and say, oh, this is really badly Asian coded. Because having read the books, I can see it. Lee DeConneth is Asian coded, in my opinion. I don't know what ethnicity she is in the game. I don't know what ethnicity she is in the book itself. It doesn't say these things explicitly, but having read enough books, well, to be fair, a lot of your understanding of Eberron, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, a lot of your understanding of Eberron has been through me. Um, and I code things Asian. I'm guilty of it. I put things in that light because that's what I'm most familiar with. Um, it's also how I see it. It's how I perceive that world. Damn it! I thought I had it. So, because of that, because you're seeing it through my lens, you will see it through an Asian code. And the books don't do it badly. I'm not going to claim the books do it badly. I will say that something I don't like about how they do Lee. Her name is spelled Lei. It's Asian. It's East Asian. How they write her is very cold and stoic and emotionless. And those are things that, yeah, they're bad to do. Damn it. Keep missing. There. Though they're bad to do in general for a female character, they're worse when it's East Asian female. Because, like, you can do it positively for a woman. For an Asian character is something. I mean, I also play Monk in our Eberron game, which brings to sight. I mean, you and Will both do that. And I asked Will for that reason too, and I was like, Will, please tell me your character is Asian coded. Please tell me that your character is Asian appearing. Because I don't want you playing a white guy. And I didn't say this too explicitly, but I was kind of worried when Will made his character that he was playing a white guy who went to an Asian mod. He was playing a Danny Rand type character. Which, don't get me wrong, I think Will could have done well. I think Will is doing a great job with it. Yeah, and worrying about it is good. I worry about how I portray women. And I expect you and Corey to call me out on it when I do something badly. But I will I do have a way to lead the narrative with you and Will to try to pull away from the tropes and the negative things. But how Lee is written in the Eberron books is problematic because she's a cold Asian woman. Even so, if you look at like the character I made, who you guys haven't met yet, because she's just somebody who I've been talking about with Corey, as one of the 3 founders of Pirate Island, Bao Jie. Bao Jie. Yeah, I think that was the name I gave her. Like, there are things I can get away with doing. Damn it, I got squished. I'm very careful to not portray. I was even worried when I was decided she was going to be an artificer type character, a innovator, an inventor, because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to end up with the Chinese character doing all of that stuff again. But the way I perceive her in my head, it kind of goes against the tropes, where I want her to be a bit more caring and kind and all that stuff. And you know, I'm looking at oh goodness, I can't remember her name. The Chinese pirate as inspiration. So, because of the fact that I'm kind of basing her off of a real person, I'm using that to try to subvert the genre and do things that aren't tropey in a negative light. Um, yeah, and it's good that you do that too. Like I'm not gonna, like even if you did something that was politically incorrect, I wouldn't fault you for it because I've seen that you are making efforts to not Qingxi. Thank you. Because I've seen that you're making efforts. You and Will both make efforts to not fall into classical tropes that are problematic. Damn it. Keep falling for the exact same trick every time. So, for instance, Sela is a bit cold. Well, not cold. Cold would be a bit. She comes off as cold to people who don't know her, but she's very indifferent, for lack of a better word, which can be a negative thing when you're looking at Chinese characters. But the way you do it is fine, in my opinion. Well, she's very bored a lot of the time. She seems very bored with how she does things. And yeah, 17 can fight me if she wants. The fact is that I'm talking about actual tropes and stereotypes that Chinese people have had to deal with for ages. And regardless of whether or not it was intentional with Sela, the fact is that she comes off in a certain way that can be problematic to people who don't know her. Well, she's cold to people who don't know her, is what my point is. And Chinese people are very similar. Damn it. He snuck up on me. Yeah. She can appear cold to people who don't know her. But I've met people who are similar to that. I'm similar to that. People who don't know me have asked people why I hate them. Like I had somebody who genuinely who I thought was who I thought understood me and understood that I was like this with everybody. Go to a mutual friend and say, "Why does Peter hate me?" And she was like, "What do you mean? Why does Peter hate you?" She was like, "Well, he's always so mean to me." And I was like, "What?" And you know, I understand that I can come off as a bit of an asshole to people who don't know me because of the fact that I'm very sarcastic. I speak without thinking. And I am just mean. And it's also absolutely true. But that's also what my friend said. She was like, Peter isn't being mean to you. He's just being Peter. But I also apologized to her afterwards. After I got that, after she said that to me, after our mutual friend relayed it to me, I said, okay, let me go and apologize. And I pulled her aside and I said, hey, listen, I'm sorry, it was never my intention to come off as mean. I understand how I did, and I'm sorry for that. And I made an attempt to be nicer to her, like actively nicer to her, because, like, I don't like making people feel bad, contrary to popular opinion. Damn it! That I got him. Damn it, Avarice. which is fine. Like, I understand it. I speak very glibly. And I do make effort to try to not be like that with people who don't know me. But again, it's one of those things where I talk, and I type too without always thinking. I'll write what comes to my mind. Damn it. And yeah, and sometimes they'll type things that say, where I'll say one thing but I'll mean another, because in my head I'm saying the same thing that I mean, but the interpretation comes off differently. So I'm not going to fault her for that. I'm not going to fault anybody for wanting to use somebody as a middleman when talking to me. Like, I make efforts so that doesn't happen, but I understand why it happens. And I'm not going to fault Victoria for it either. I'm not going to fault anybody for it. But my point was, when it comes to writing Aseo and Sayla and talking like them and going into character like them, as two white people, I understand you two, because you're both good people. I'm not going to say you're doing things these things on purpose, because I know you're not. But I've spent enough time consuming media with the token Asian character to understand what the harmful tropes are. Damn it. But I've also spent enough time with Chinese people, and mostly Chinese people, to be completely honest. I don't know why. It just came out that way. It just happens to be that way. Yeah, I know a few Koreans, but it's mostly just Chinese people. To understand that there are certain things that, while tropey, are just true about them. There we go. Guys, there's 3 left. So, because I know that you and Will don't have ill intent, I'm not going to fault you two for doing things that may come off as bad. Isao's showing off, she does do sometimes, can be problematic. It's something that Asian people get portrayed as in Western media as in a negative light. If you look at like old kung fu movies, for instance, it's always very flashy because that's how American people see Chinese people. So something like that is something I don't like. We're gonna get a bit heavy for a moment as I talk about my past, but I used to be bullied as a kid, and it was a weird kind of bullying, because it would always be people coming up to me and being like, "Oh, Peter, you're Chinese, right? So you know kung fu, huh?" And if I got upset, it would be like, "Oh no, he's gonna karate chop me." So because excuse me. So because of that, I have grown a bit resentful towards the show-offy Asian, because it's been done so many times in person for me that I don't like. Sayla's an elf, right? Yeah, and I've coded elves to be Asian. For the most part. Or I intended for them to be coded Asian. Victoria asked for me to code them Jewish. Which I've made attempts to do for her. But at the end of the day, the way I see elves is as Asian. I didn't, you know. Oh, what? What just happened? Damn it! Yeah, this is one of the last 3 bosses, so it's going to get a lot tougher from here. Damn it. So what I have to do is I have to press the left button and then the right button, and then I have to keep dodging and weaving until the center part reveals itself. And then I can fire an arrow into there, and then he will die. Damn it. So because of the fact that I have elves as Asian coded, that too. So I'm not going to blame you for a spur of the moment character. Taco is an example of that. Taco was a spur of the moment character. Nobody expected Adventure Zone, from my understanding, to take off. Nobody expected Taco to be more than like a one-time gag, and Justin apologized for it. He said, "Listen, guys, I didn't want to. I was joking around. I was having a tough. I was playing around. Exactly. Neither was Taco. Taco wasn't supposed to last more than 1 game. But they had so much fun playing that 1 game and it had such a good response that people asked for more. And the brothers did it. But Justin apologized and he said, "Listen, guys, I know I wrote Taco to be this way. But the fact of the matter is I wasn't thinking when I made him in the first time." And, he didn't think that it would be problematic. So a lot of things... Yeah. But like Justin said, he understands why it's problematic to have a white guy discovering the taco. He understands why it's problematic for a white guy to have created a character named Taco. And these were all done in attempts to try to apologize for the Adventures of Comic 2, where they had painted Taco as green to try to move away from... Damn it, this one's hard. To try to move away from Mexican stereotypes, Latino stereotypes. He didn't want to do that. So, when he had the choice, he decided, okay, now that I have the choice, I am going to... Damn it, I ran right into the laser. I'm going to make it so that way Taco isn't brown. exactly. So he said he wanted to play. He didn't want to have them be brown and be a white guy playing a brown character because he didn't think he was qualified for that. And I don't think anybody should be faulting Justin for that. I understand he made the wise choice, in my opinion. He made the wiser choice. And people got upset at him for it. People said, well, Justin, I viewed him as brown, being a brown person. And I was hoping that I could have a brown hero to look up to. You know, I thought he was funny and all that stuff. And he didn't realize that. He isn't on Tumblr. He doesn't see these things. And he even made lots of efforts afterwards. He said, listen, I hear there's somebody on Tumblr shaming somebody for drawing Taco as fat because I one time said he was really thin. Don't do that. All of your depictions of Taco are correct. And, you know, that's something that, Justin is one of those white guys who I think does it well. Who does, making an attempt for diverse representation well. Damn it. Exactly, you'll never please everybody. If you're a white person and you accidentally do something that's coded a specific way, you're going to offend somebody. And that's where I think intent comes in. I accidentally pressed left instead of down. That's where I think intent comes in. If, say, you're at the supermarket, let me give you a legal example. If you're at the supermarket and you put a pack of sardines in your pocket because your hands are full and you don't want to go get a shopping cart. I don't know why I'm thinking of sardines. I don't actually like sardines. But you put a packet of sardines in your pocket because your hands are full and you don't want to eat. That was being juice coated. We probably would still get issues for it, but, you know, there's nothing you can do about it. But I think elves being Jewish coded would be acceptable because they aren't normally Jewish coded. It would be an interesting subversion. Dwarves being Jewish coded, I understand, could be a problem. But elves I think are one of those areas where it's finer. But so what I was saying was, sorry, I keep getting distracted by chat. If you have a pack of sardines in your pocket, and no. What I'm saying is, what I'm trying to get at is, if you have no, it isn't where I'm going for it. If you have sardines, you put a pack of sardines in your pocket with the intent of buying them, and you know, you go up to the line and you're putting things down to pay for, and as you're walking out, you realize, oh crap, you still have that packet of sardines in your pocket. You can then go and pay for it. You can go up and you can pay for it, and nobody's going to arrest you for stealing because you didn't have the intent to steal. I'm talking about you as a white person. It's a white privilege, but nobody's going to arrest you for it because the intent wasn't there. There was no malicious intent. They'll probably be like, okay, we'll try to be more careful in the future, but you're not going to get arrested for stealing. And I think the same thing should apply when it comes to writing. I'm going to say, if you do something that's problematic, I'll say, okay, try to be more careful about it in the future. But here's why what you did is wrong. Here's why what you did was a problem. Ah, damn it. And that's something that I think Tumblr especially doesn't do. They don't look at the intent. They just attack. Because That's how they do things. Damn it! So, if you look at going back to Taco, or let's use a more recent example. Taryon Darrington. Matt Mercer and all of them got into a whole bunch of trouble for Taryon Darrington. They got into a whole bunch of trouble because people thought that Matthew Mercer and Sam Riegel and the rest of the Critical Role cast were making fun of things that had gotten gay people killed before. And they had to explain themselves. Which, mind you, I don't agree with. I don't think it was correct to make Matthew Mercer and Sam Riegel explain themselves. Because at the end of the day, they've never shown malicious intent, and they had to show it again. They had to show, even after all this time, there was no malicious intent. Ah, damn it, so that's how I'm supposed to do it? Ugh. I have to get them both on at the same time? Oh crap, that's gonna be tricky. I thought I just had to hit them both. Wait, that's it? I just hit it before the laser fires off? Oh my goodness. Okay, this is... Oh, that's a small window too. Stupid fists! That stupid statue keeps fisting me. Seems to get it when it comes to character sexuality. This is why I would be even more so worried. Yeah, but you've talked about it to me and Corey, who are those sexualities, and I'm not going to claim that Corey and I have the same mileage because we don't. Ah, damn it! I totally got it. We don't have the same mileage because Corey being a woman and me being a man, which is going to create different mileage. The same way a trans woman's experience will be very different from a trans man's experience. A bisexual man's experiences are going to be very different from a bisexual woman's experience. The same thing with the asexuality / demisexuality stuff. And I talk to Stephanie a lot when I'm writing, just to be like, hey, listen, I want to write a lesbian. Is this stuff fine? So it goes back to the intent, which I think should matter more to people than the actual actions, because damn it. Because intent is one of those things where, yeah, it's easy to lie about, but if you've known somebody for long enough, you don't need to ask about it. You just know. Like, I've watched Critical Role long enough to know that Sam Riegel, though he's an asshole and jokes way more often than he has to, would never make fun of the gay community like people accused him of doing with Tarion. This is probably part of the reason why it took me so long to demonstrate this issue. Damn, even though I thought about it. Yeah. Exactly. Because, you know, when it comes to stuff like... Damn it! When it comes to stuff like that, I'm saying you, but I'm including myself as well. You don't have that mileage. Like, Mulan, for instance, just to give an example. Mulan does an amazing job of subverting a lot of tropes. It still hits a lot of them, but it does a good job of dodging a lot of really bad ones. So, you know, you have Mulan, for instance, who is allowed to have emotions. That's something a lot of Chinese women in American media aren't allowed to have. They're not allowed to have emotions. That's un-Chinese. To have emotions is for white people. Chinese people aren't allowed to have emotions, and it's similar for when you look at, and Tumblr I've seen talks about it a lot, but it's similar for Chinese people as well. Having a powerful black princess who doesn't need a man doesn't subvert anything. It creates the same problems that black people have been trying to get out of for a long time. Black women have been portrayed in American media as being tough and strong, and it's created problems for them in the real world. Because, you know, even though you will have black people who are tough and strong, they don't want to have to be. Damn it. So it's similar for Chinese people. So like, Harold and Kumar, ironically enough, is really good Chinese representation. Relatively speaking. The Chinese guy Harold does have a bit of a stick up his butt, and he is used as comic relief, which is a completely different problem. But, you know, it's better than the stoic, cold Chinese person. But, like I was saying, when it comes to Eberron, I'm pretty much bracing for it. Damn it. Completely missed. I'm bracing for Eberron to be full of Chinese-coded characters who do nothing to subvert the stereotype. Damn it! It's too early. Well, if you think about it like this, consider Sleeping Beauty. If Sleeping Beauty were still presented as very feminine, but not needing a man, that would be fine. But if you look at Moana, which, mind you, I haven't watched yet, but my understanding of Moana is that she's presented as a non-feminine, still feminine, but less feminine than the white princesses. Yeah, and I've been meaning to watch it. It's just I haven't really. I keep forgetting. I've been meaning to watch a lot of them. Tangled, Brave. I'm so behind on Disney movies. Moana is presented as a less than feminine woman of color who doesn't need a man, which is done a lot. Yeah, but Corey, the amount of movies I haven't seen, can probably fit on both hands. Whereas the amount of movies you have seen could probably fit on both hands. Am I wrong? Exactly. But, you know, if you look at... I mean, all the recent Disney princesses, even the ones who do have love interest in their movies, are presented that way. Which... Okay, so you have Brave. I know Brave was presented as a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. But Tangled, she did. Tangled, she needed Flynn. Anna, Elsa, but Elsa was portrayed in a very specific way. Elsa was cold. Damn it. This is so hard. But for the most part, too, you have to notice that it. Again, it's worth pointing out, though, as a man, I'm not going to claim to be the expert on this subject. I will defer to you two. They're all trying so hard to subvert old tropes and they've created new ones. Exactly. They've created new tropes. They've created a problematic situation where I think the correct thing to do would be to do something like Cinderella. Have Cinderella be feminine. Let her be feminine. And strong. But don't make it so she needs the man. Don't make it so she's... I'm going to... Yeah, so, yes, I agree. There is nothing wrong with tropes in and of themselves. But, and I don't... The feud will have a general since the princesses mindset that I've talked about. Yeah. I will disagree with you there. And it's about how you use them. Damn it. Because the public has a way of using the media. Creating one or more characters should not... Exactly. Creating one or more characters shouldn't mean getting rid of another. Well, it's because... So let me finish up my point first, and then I'm going to switch into that. The way the public absorbs mass media, and I understand where Tumblr purist things come from, while understanding this. No, I killed it! Oh, I had it! The way the public absorbs mass media is in such a way that is in such a way that even tropes that aren't done with intent of harm or used harmfully reinforce the public's idea of a trope. So, using... Who can I use as an example? Let's use Shang-Chi as an example. Or Jackie Chan. Let me use Jackie Chan as an example, because Jackie Chan's a real person. Jackie Chan is in fact a martial arts expert. He is in fact a martial arts expert. So the movies use him, a martial arts expert, to be representative of the martial arts and of Chinese people as martial artists. Not problematic in and of itself. In fact, I think it's correct that they use an actual martial arts expert to do martial artists, to use for martial arts. I fired off too early. But it reinforces the mentality that Chinese people are all martial artists. I was a victim of that. You know, even after I learned Taekwondo, I didn't want to... it took me a long time to come to terms with my liking Taekwondo, because I got bullied for it. I got bullied for being the Chinese kid who loves doing karate, which it wasn't. Because you have these tropes that just reinforce this mentality in the public. But yes, so Kelsey, so what you're saying, I completely agree with you. But the reason for that is that media is still being created by men. So if you look at She-Ra, for instance, She-Ra is written by a lesbian woman, and you can see immediately the difference between She-Ra and Moana, in my opinion. Damn it. And you know, when I was watching Ip Man. Ip Man is a movie in Hong Kong written by Chinese people. It's done by Hong Kong's Hollywood. About a martial arts expert. But the way it's done is done differently from how Western media does it. When the white people write martial arts, is different from how Ip Man does it. Ip Man does it very humbly. He doesn't want to fight. But he does anyway, because he has to do it to protect his people. Damn it. So, when Ip Man is doing his woofu, yeah, there's always going to be stuff that does it better. And it's almost always going to be done by the people who it's about. Even with the material made by women, it comes up, the reactions to it. Like, I love Wonder Woman. You mean like reactions like, is Wonder Woman more feminist than Captain Marvel? Because there can only be one feminist icon, and when they compare Antiope and Buttercup, exactly. Yep, they're saying that there can only be one brand of feminist. And I've had discussions with women about that too, where I was just like, okay, I understand, that Muslim women are required to wear the religious head garb. But I know Muslim women who wear it because they like to wear it. And I don't give a fuck about whether or not you think it's oppressive. Yes, you're a woman, and typically I will defer to a woman on this, but my understanding of feminism is that it should be for women to be comfortable in their skin. To wear what they want to wear. Not because they have to wear it, but because they want to wear it. And as such, I have a friend who will sometimes not wear it if she doesn't want to. Ah, damn it, I missed again. Yeah, who doesn't wear it if she doesn't want to wear it, and will wear it if she wants to wear it. But she doesn't feel obliged to wear it. At no point has she because we asked her too, we said, like I said, I made myself miserable for a long time because I felt like I had to justify or deny things I liked. Yeah, exactly. And I said to her, listen, I understand for some people, wearing a bikini is how they want to portray themselves. But the fact is that males can and will use anything to oppress a woman and objectify a woman. Sports Illustrated says that bikinis are for the male... There we go! Oh my goodness, I finally got it. Exactly. Stereotypically feminine things included. So, what would you have a woman do in that situation? They can wear a burqa or a bikini. And that mentality is problematic, because at the end of the day, what you're going to say to women is, you can't wear a bikini because that's for the male gaze. But you can't wear a burqa because that plays into an oppressive regime. Oh, okay. Cool. And, they're both wrong. You can... My understanding of feminism is that you can wear whatever the hell you want. What the hell is this? Oh, what? Oh, worm? What's going on now? Did I just win? What's going on? Oh, what? What is this? Oh, rip. Rip me. Yeah, and you know what? I've had to deal with that crap too. Being a guy who isn't outdoorsy but likes basketball. I was told I was either allowed to be a nerd or I had to be a jock. It took me a long time to accept both. I could be both. Damn it! I have to fight myself now. My biggest enemy. Damn it. Ugh. The soul. Image of the Titan soul. Okay, let's give this one more try and then take a break. Okay, that try was really short. One more try. I don't think I really tried with that one. Okay, that's wild. So yeah, let's take a break there. Exactly, Troy and Gabriella did an audition for people to be pigeonholed. But let's take a break there. Because this is wild. This is a fun game. How many people I have left to kill? Ah, sweet, 17 people killed, so I do only have 2 left. 302 deaths. I'm on a roll. So let's take a break there. I have 2 more people to kill. I'm going to kill them on Sunday, hopefully. Hopefully it doesn't take me all of Sunday to do it. But I feel good. I feel good about it. I feel hopeful about it. I killed a lot of people today. I killed a lot of people the day before. It's a nice, quick game. Love the music. I love indie games for that reason. I think indie games have some of the best music. But let's take a break there and pick this back up on Sunday. So, in the words of 2 wise men, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes.